your word, oh God, that you would give us beauty for ashes, the oil of joy in the midst of sorrow, the garment of praise to drive out the spirit of heaviness, oh God.
It was a somber night on Sunday as dozens gathered in remembrance, putting up prayers and releasing balloons for 30-year-old mother of four, Krystal Anderson.
You know, a year ago, there was so much hope. A year ago, I had so much faith. I no longer have faith or hope that, you know, Krystal is alive. That's the hardest part.
Everyone, including Anderson's four children, came dressed in purple.
It seems that no one has forgotten her. You know, when all the cameras go off and everybody has gone home, the family is still left with the struggles.
Anderson's sister, Shadira Smothers, says she is still in disbelief about what happened to her sister.
I text her today, just like I text her on her birthday. I still reach out to her number. It's like I lost a part of me.
August 2022, authorities say Anderson was kidnapped by her boyfriend, Tony Berry, and was seen by witnesses being shoved in the trunk of his car. That same car later found burned in Newberry County, and deputies say Berry bought several items that could be used to get rid of a body.
For anyone who participated and helped Tony Berry commit this crime, we want everyone to seek the same type of punishment.
It's been a year since Anderson's children have seen their mother. Officials say after her disappearance, they were separated and started living with family members.
There are children that are lost and displaced because they're not in their regular home.
Right now, Barry is charged with murder, kidnapping, and arson. The family is asking for support of the community to help provide for the children.
On a quiet stretch of land in rural Barnwell County, South Carolina, investigators spent hours carefully searching an area hidden beneath dense trees and brush. For the public, it looked like another search. For one family, it represented something far more significant. Nearly 4 years earlier, Krystal Anderson, a 30-year-old mother of four from nearby Wagener, had disappeared without explanation. Despite years of investigation, public appeals, and countless questions, no one had been able to tell her family where she was. Then, in May 2026, investigators announced they had uncovered human remains buried in what authorities described as a concealed grave near Blackville. Weeks later, DNA testing performed by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division confirmed the remains belonged to Krystal Anderson. The Aiken County Coroner's Office ruled her death a homicide. For her loved ones, the discovery ended years of uncertainty, but it also marked the beginning of a different kind of journey. Instead of wondering where Krystal was, they were now left waiting for the courts to determine responsibility for her death. Long before investigators searched these woods, before the court hearings, before the criminal charges, there was simply a young mother living in a small South Carolina community, surrounded by people who expected to see her come home. So how did an ordinary August evening become the starting point of a homicide investigation that would take nearly 4 years to reach this moment? This is the story of Krystal Anderson. Before we get into the details, we'd like to welcome you to our channel, True Crime Diaries, where we break down real cases, shocking crimes, and the hidden details behind the headlines. If you find these stories insightful, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new case. These are real events and real lives affected, so stay with us as we get into today's case. Before investigators began piecing together timelines, before court documents were filed, and long before her name appeared in news reports, Krystal Anderson was known simply as a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a mother. She was 30 years old and lived in the small community of Wagener, South Carolina, where life often moved at a quieter pace. Those who knew her didn't describe someone who kept to herself. Family members remembered Krystal as outgoing, full of personality, and someone who stayed closely connected to the people she loved. Her sister once described her as bubbly, saying she loved making TikTok videos and spending time with her children. At the center of Krystal's world were her four children. Everything her family shared publicly after her disappearance pointed back to the same reality. No matter what challenges she faced, her children remained her priority. They were the reason she kept moving forward, and according to those closest to her, they were not children she would ever willingly leave behind. Her sister, Shadira Smothers, has spoken openly about the bond they shared. She recalled that Krystal often called her before making important decisions or simply talk. Even during difficult times, someone in the family usually knew where Krystal was or had recently heard from her. That pattern of regular communication had been part of her life for years. That consistency would later become one of the first reasons her disappearance alarmed those who knew her best. When August 2022 arrived, there was nothing to suggest that ordinary routines were about to be interrupted. Family members expected to hear from Krystal, just as they always had. But as hours turned into days without a phone call, a message, or any sign of where she might be, concern quickly replaced reassurance. Her mother, Wanda Sumter, ultimately reported her missing after realizing something was deeply out of character. Investigators noted that Krystal normally communicated with her mother or other relatives every day, making the sudden silence highly unusual. As the search began, her loved ones found themselves facing a question they never imagined asking. Where was Krystal? At that point, they still believed she could be found. They had no way of knowing that the search for answers would continue for years. By the evening of August 20th, 2022, investigators would later determine that Krystal Anderson had been seen for what would become the final known time. According to arrest warrants and witness statements cited by investigators, Krystal was with her boyfriend, Tony Berry, in a Wagener area that evening. Multiple witnesses reported seeing the couple involved in an argument. Those witness accounts later became a key part of the investigation. Tony Berry has pleaded not guilty, and the allegations have not been proven in court. Investigators also alleged that witnesses saw Berry force Krystal into his vehicle. Those allegations form the basis for the kidnapping charge that was later filed. Court documents state that this was the last confirmed sighting of Krystal before she disappeared. Berry denies the allegations. After that evening, there were no confirmed reports of Krystal contacting her family or friends. There was no verified activity indicating she had continued with her normal routine. For investigators, establishing what happened after those final witness sightings became the central focus of the case. Every interview, every piece of digital evidence, and every search warrant that followed was aimed at answering one question: what happened after Krystal was last seen? As the hours passed, Krystal Anderson's absence became increasingly difficult to explain. For the people who knew her best, it wasn't simply that they hadn't heard from her. It was that her behavior had suddenly broken from a pattern they had always known. Family members said Krystal regularly stayed in contact with them, especially with her mother and sister. Going days without a phone call or message was completely out of character. When those calls never came, concern quickly turned into action. On August 24th, 2022, Krystal was officially reported missing. Investigators with the Aiken County Sheriff's Office began gathering information about her recent movements and speaking with people who had seen her before she disappeared. Her family also began searching on their own. They organized prayer gatherings, shared missing person flyers across social media, and asked the public to come forward with any information that might help bring Krystal home. Each new day without answers only deepened their concern. At that stage of the investigation, there was still hope that Krystal could be found alive. But investigators were now racing to reconstruct the days leading up to her disappearance, following every lead, verifying every witness account, and searching for anything that could explain why a mother of four had suddenly vanished. Just over a month after Krystal Anderson was reported missing, the investigation reached a major turning point. On September 27, 2022, the Aiken County Sheriff's Office announced the arrest of Tony Berry, the man investigators identified as Krystal's boyfriend. He was charged with kidnapping, based on evidence investigators said they had gathered during the early stages of the case. At that point, Krystal had still not been found. The following week, Berry appeared before a judge for a bond hearing. Prosecutors argued that the strength of the evidence and the seriousness of the allegations justified keeping him in custody. The judge denied bond, and Berry remained jailed while the investigation continued.
Now an update on a story we brought you in October. A man suspected in the disappearance of a local woman is now charged with her murder. Today we hear from Krystal Anderson's sister about these new charges. Here's News Channel 6's Aiken Bureau Chief Sean Cabbage-Stock.
She's infamous for having a pink Christmas tree. So when I put up my tree this year and it's white, the 7-year-old, she said, no, My mom always puts up a pink Christmas tree.
Mother of four, Krystal Anderson, has been missing from Wagener since August 2022.
So they don't really know as much as we know at this point. They just know that their mom is not here for birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. They just know she's not here.
Investigators say she was with her partner, Tony Lee Berry, when she disappeared.
She has a 7-year-old child with him. So you would never think that someone would hurt the mother of their child. So I feel very betrayed.
Berry was captured at a Lexington County hotel in October and charged with kidnapping.
He's still not speaking. He wouldn't even look at us in court. So, no, he said nothing.
Now, additional warrants for murder and arson after authorities found a burnt car in Newberry County.
The faith is gone. So, we just have to start moving forward and trying to see closure at this point.
Berry is being held at the Aiken County Detention Center. The sheriff's office told News Channel 6 is working to bring Krystal's body home. The news, a bittersweet blessing for Anderson's family during the holiday season.
And she always dressed them alike for the holidays. So we're going to try to keep that going, having them all wear their matching pajamas just like she did. That's what we're going to do.
Although Krystal's whereabouts were still unknown, investigators continued collecting evidence. Then, in December 2022, prosecutors announced additional charges. Berry was indicted for murder, possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, and criminal conspiracy. The decision reflected prosecutors' position that the evidence supported a homicide case, even though Krystal's remains had not yet been recovered. Berry has pleaded not guilty to the charges. The criminal case remains pending, and the allegations have not been proven in court. For Krystal's family, the arrest marked an important step in the investigation. But without knowing where she was, many of the answers they were searching for remained out of reach. As investigators continued examining the evidence, the case expanded beyond a single defendant. In December 2022, the Aiken County Sheriff's Office announced the arrest of Darius Berry, Tony Berry's son. Prosecutors charged him with accessory after the fact to murder, alleging that he knowingly assisted after the crime had already occurred. Those allegations remain subject to the court process. According to arrest warrants, investigators allege that Darius Berry helped dispose of evidence connected to the investigation. Court documents specifically stated that authorities believed he participated in burning a vehicle that investigators considered relevant to the case. These allegations have not been proven in court. The additional arrest suggested that investigators believed more than one person had knowledge of events following Krystal Anderson's disappearance. As the prosecution's case continued to develop, investigators focused on documenting the movement of people, vehicles, and physical evidence during the days after Krystal was last seen. Like Tony Berry, Darius Berry was entitled to the presumption of innocence as the criminal proceedings moved forward. The charges represented the prosecution's allegations, which would ultimately be tested in court. For Krystal's family, each new development brought another piece of the investigation into public view. But the question they had carried since August 2022 still remained unanswered. Where was Krystal?
Now this week, charges were upgraded against Krystal's boyfriend, Tony Berry. He was originally charged with kidnapping, but on Tuesday, a murder charge was added. Then yesterday, deputies arrested another suspect in connection to her murder. Darius Berry is charged with accessory after the fact to murder. Krystal Anderson's family confirms Darius is Tony's son. In the last hour, we've learned new information about what police believe is his connection to the case. Arrest warrants say Darius Berry helped his dad burn a car they believe is connected to Krystal's murder. The documents also say they think Tony and Darius worked together to conceal information about the case. Darius's bond is set at $20,000. His father is being held without bond. An arrest warrant for Tony shows what authorities believe what happened to Krystal Anderson in Augusta. First, authorities believe she was killed on August 20th off of Severn Road in Wagener. Witnesses say they saw Tony place her inside the trunk of a Cadillac after a verbal argument. The investigation found later he made a series of purchases that could be used to get rid of human remains, such as a shovel, plastic coveralls, and a box of trash bags. Authorities say additional evidence showed he researched how to carry out the crime. Anderson's sister says it's been a hard week.
I just feel like the system failed me. I feel like I don't know if we would have been able to save Krystal's life because I don't know how soon everything happened. But I do believe that we would have gotten closure a lot sooner.
By the end of 2022, criminal charges have been filed, but one crucial piece of the case was still missing. Krystal Anderson had not been found. For investigators, the search continued alongside the legal proceedings. Detectives followed new leads, revisited existing evidence, and continued working toward locating her remains. Although details of those efforts were not always made public, officials consistently indicated that the investigation remained active. Outside the courtroom, Krystal's family faced a different reality. Without answers, they continued speaking publicly about her case, hoping that renewed attention might encourage someone with information to come forward. Prayer vigils and community support remained part of their effort to keep Krystal's name in the public eye. Throughout that time, her 4 children continued growing up without their mother. Family members later shared that the children were cared for by relatives after Krystal's disappearance.
Friends and family are celebrating the life of Krystal Anderson. Anderson went missing just over a year ago now from Aiken County. Her body still has not been found. Anderson's boyfriend, Tony Berry, has been charged with murder and kidnapping. Berry's son, Darius, was granted bond back on August 11th. Darius was wanted for accessory after the fact to felony arson. Tony's car was found burned in a wooded area near Newberry after Anderson went missing. Her body has not yet been found. Anderson has 4 kids who continue to hold out hope that her body will be found.
The daily inspiration from their family, they are getting that. But you know, when a child is young, they need their mother. They want their mother, and their mother is used to being there.
Aiken County authorities are continuing to investigate.
While those closest to her continued waiting for the day they might finally learn where she was. The investigation never officially became a cold case. Instead, it remained an open homicide investigation, with detectives continuing to pursue evidence while the criminal case moved through the court system. Nearly 4 years passed. The uncertainty that began in August 2022 had never truly gone away. Then, in the spring of 2026, investigators made an announcement that would change the course of the case once again. In May 2026, nearly 4 years after Krystal Anderson disappeared, investigators carried out a search in a wooded area near Blackville in Barnwell County, South Carolina. On May 21st, the Aiken County Sheriff's Office announced that human remains had been recovered for what investigators described as a clandestine burial site. At the time, officials did not publicly identify the individual, explaining that forensic testing would be needed before notifying the family. Less than 2 weeks later, those results brought the confirmation everyone had been waiting for. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, identified the remains as Krystal Anderson through DNA analysis. The Aiken County Coroner's Office officially confirmed her identity and ruled her death a homicide. Following the announcement, the Aiken County Sheriff's Office acknowledged the years of work that had gone into the investigation and credited the continued efforts of detectives and partner agencies involved in the search. Officials also emphasized that the criminal case remained active despite the discovery. For Krystal's family, the news marked the end of one chapter. For almost 4 years, they had lived without knowing where she was. Now, they finally had that answer. The investigation, however, was far from over. With Krystal's remains recovered and identified, attention shifted back to the courtroom, where prosecutors continued preparing their case. By the time Krystal Anderson's remains were identified in 2026, investigators had spent years assembling what prosecutors describe as the sequence of events surrounding her disappearance. According to court records, the state's case relies on several forms of evidence rather than a single witness or forensic finding. Prosecutors have cited witness statements, cell phone location data, internet search history, purchase records, and forensic examinations as key elements supporting their theory. Investigators allege that Krystal was killed on the evening of August 20th, 2022, after she was last seen with Tony Berry. They further allege that her body was transported from the location where she was killed and later buried in a concealed grave in Barnwell County. These allegations form the prosecution's theory of the case and have not been proven in court. Court documents also state that investigators identified online searches and purchases they believe were consistent with efforts to conceal evidence. Prosecutors have argued that these findings, together with witness testimony and digital records, support the charges brought against Tony Berry. Berry has denied the allegations and has entered a plea of not guilty. Investigators further allege that Darius Berry assisted after the crime by helping dispose of evidence, including a vehicle that authorities believe was connected to the investigation. Darius Berry has also been charged, and those allegations likewise remain before the court. As the case moves toward trial, the prosecution will have the burden of proving its allegations beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense will have the opportunity to challenge the evidence presented. Until that process is complete, the allegations remain claims made in court, not findings of guilt. For Krystal Anderson's family, the investigation was never measured by court hearings or legal filings. It was measured by days without answers. From the moment she was reported missing, her relatives remained determined to keep her name in the public eye. They organized prayer vigils, spoke with local media, and repeatedly asked anyone with information to come forward. Their hope was simple, that someone, somewhere, knew something that could help bring Krystal home. Throughout the years that followed, Krystal's sister, Shadira Smothers, continued speaking publicly about her sister. She described the emotional weight of living without answers, explaining that the family never stopped believing they would eventually learn the truth. Even as the criminal case progressed, the uncertainty surrounding Krystal's whereabouts remained the hardest part. When investigators confirmed that the remains recovered in Barnwell County belonged to Krystal, the family finally received the answer they had spent nearly 4 years searching for. In interviews following the identification, relatives described the confirmation as heartbreaking, but they also expressed gratitude that Krystal could finally be brought home. After years of not knowing where she was, they could begin laying her to rest. The discovery did not erase the loss. It did, however, end a chapter defined by uncertainty. For Krystal's 4 children, the years without their mother can never be recovered. For her family, the hope that once centered on finding Krystal has now become a hope that the legal process will provide accountability and a full understanding of what happened. The disappearance of Krystal Anderson remained unanswered for nearly 4 years. What began in August 2022 as a missing person investigation eventually became a homicide case, one built over time through witness interviews, digital evidence, forensic work, and years of investigative effort. The recovery and identification of Krystal's remains in 2026 answered one of the family's most painful questions, but it did not bring the case to a close. Today, the criminal proceedings remain ongoing. Tony Berry has pleaded not guilty to the charges filed against him, including murder, and Darius Berry also faces charges connected to the case. Under the justice system, both men are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in court. The responsibility for determining the facts now rests with the judicial process. Although the legal case continues, Krystal's story reaches beyond the courtroom. She is remembered by those who knew her not as a case number, but as a woman whose absence left a lasting impact on her family, her friends, and especially her 4 children. Her family's persistence ensured that her disappearance was never forgotten. Their determination kept attention focused on the investigation through years of uncertainty, until answers finally emerged. As this case moves through the courts, the final legal outcome has yet to be written. What remains certain is that Krystal Anderson's name continues to be remembered, and the search for justice now continues through the legal system. If you found this documentary informative, consider subscribing for more carefully researched true crime stories focused on verified facts, responsible storytelling, and the people behind the headlines. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next case.